Hey everybody. A couple things I noticed is that there's a lot of question going on about who's running Iran right now. And then a few weeks after that, we had the news that the Ayatollah had a brain tumor or something terminal, and that his son was sworn in, and that fills in this fourth king here of Persia. It fulfills this. And, now 3 or 4 weeks, about 3 weeks later, I guess, now we have this unconfirmed king of Assyria. The king of Syria, Assad, we really don't know what happened. We know that the radar shows a plane crashing, but then yet now it's said that he's in Russia under asylum, but there's really no proof of that. So we have these two things here, the leader of Iran and the former leader of Syria. Lots of questions around these two things. And I just, it hit me. I'm like, oh, well, yeah, they're going to say things to not point to these prophecies. So it's almost like, it may have been a decoy, it may have not been. Either way, this prophecy is still fulfilled because the king is punished here in verse 18. And in Daniel 11, this fourth king that stands up is also happened, and they're not publishing it, so it doesn't change the fact that it's happened, though. The Ayatollah is in a coma, so his son is taken over, and they're not publishing it because they don't want this prophecy pointed out. So that seems to be the case in both situations, that there's a lot of confusion on what's happening. If you look at the overall picture, why is there so much confusion about who's leading Iran? Why is there all this confusion about what happened to the king of Syria? Is he alive? Is he dead? It doesn't matter. They're creating all this confusion to not point out where we are in this book here. At the same time, we have Isaiah 17 happening right now. It says, the burden of Damascus, behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city, and it shall be a ruinous heap. Well, that's underway right now. And so this Damascus is you have to understand, the Damascus thing here in Isaiah 17 is happening at the same time of Daniel 11, the fourth king of Persia, and now the king of Syria being punished. So this is all happening at the same time, and I think that all the confusion is on purpose to not let the truth be known. They're hiding it in both cases. So part of the reason is that the stuff here about Syria here, and it talks about, it's these two verses here. It goes on to talk about, and I will bring Israel again into his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. Now, Gilead and Bashan and Carmel, these are all areas on the east of the Jordan in Syria. So basically, that's happening right now too. We had the photos of the Israeli troops on the top of Mount Haran, and that's been off limits to everybody for a long time. And that's where the fallen angels came down in the book of Enoch, and a lot of things happened on Mount Haran, if I'm saying it right. So, this verse here is showing Israel to be taking back these mountains, and it's not named here, but that was the one we saw yesterday, so it goes without saying that they're taking back all these mountains here Okay, so a lot of this confusion about what happened to the king, it's to throw everybody off the scent, really. And let's see, there's more. Okay, and so a big reason I think why is because of all the talk about Babylon becoming desolate at the same time is all here as well. I'm trying to point out one or two verses that really nail it down. Hold on. Well, down here, just a few verses later, I have laid a snare for thee, and that it's talking about Babylon. Thou was not aware. Okay, so it's talking about the snare laid against Babylon, and here's all the archers around Babylon. So it's just a lot of Old English right now for me to read. Talks about the graven images and idols, waters dried up. In verse 13, it talks about Babylon becoming desolate. So from 13 on, there's a lot. I've highlighted most of them in blue here. There's a lot of verses that tie in the destruction of Babylon to this time of when the king of Assyria is punished. So that's just happened. So that's Jeremiah 50 through, 17 through 19. It talks about the mountains here. Okay, and then verse 23, okay, I'll start with 22. A sound battle in the land and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? And, right now we're seeing the whole earth going to war everywhere. And then it goes on, how has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Okay. So there you go. These verses here are all tied together here. So it's all that's why they're being very careful about what really happened to this leader of Syria. They don't want you tying all this together here. So the timing in Jeremiah 50 is showing it's all tied together. And you have the reference to the snare in verse 24. Interesting, it's verse 24. And it goes along with Luke 21:35. So the whole chapter 50 starts out about Babylon, okay? And I'm going to point this out too. Starts in about 13 here, and it's because of the wrath of the Lord. Let's read it in the original real quick. So, this is all attributed to Yahweh, by the way, and if you finally realize that it's Yahweh causing all the warring between the nations, because he's a murderer, okay? And so in this case, yeah, I absolutely believe this is the same Yahweh character. Because of the wrath of Yahweh, not shall be inhabited, but she shall be desolate, wholly. Everyone who goes by Babylon shall be horrified and hiss at all her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babylon all around, all you who bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows. Shoot at her, no spare with arrows, for against Yahweh she has sinned. So, this is turning nation against nation. This is what is going on. This is why I think, this is the same Yahweh from the time of Exodus and the Yahweh I pointed out in Numbers. And basically, when you read Revelation enough, you realize that a lot of this wrath that's going on the planet here is people doing it to themselves. That's a big part of the Revelation, destruction in Revelation. It's not, a lot of it isn't from God himself, but it's from him turning everybody to doing this to each other. In verse 15 it goes on, for the vengeance of Yahweh, take vengeance on her. But, back here it's saying that it's going to be people shooting arrows. Okay, so this is proof Yahweh's causing this to happen, causing the people to do this to themselves. Nuclear war is not from God. Nuclear war is from one country destroying another and then retaliation. And this is what's going on here. And this is one of the things I noticed with in Revelation, that I realized that most of this stuff is people doing it to themselves, doing it to other groups of people, and the retaliation. And this is all here in Jeremiah 50 as well. You can see it. Put yourselves in array against Babylon. You who bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows. So, because against Yahweh she has sinned. See, so it's saying that this destruction comes from someone else, not from God or Yahweh in this case. In verse 15, shout against her all around have fallen, her foundations are thrown down, her walls are thrown down. For the vengeance of Yahweh, take vengeance on her as she has done so to her. So, again, this is Yahweh saying this is happening because of people doing this to each other. Okay? And then in verse 18, therefore, thus says Yahweh, hosts of the God of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land, so America, as I have punished the king of Assyria. Well, the punishment to Assyria was done by other nations. So this is just, me pointing out that most of the stuff that happens in not only World War III, but a lot of these plagues are going to be a result of the stuff from World War III. A lot of it's going to be man-made plagues. A lot of it's just people doing it to themselves. In this case, the upper elite doing it to everybody else on the surface of the earth. Okay. Verse 21, up against the land of Methaim, go up against it, and against the inhabitants of Pekod, waste and utterly destroy them, says Yahweh, and do according to all that I have commanded you. So, this is just him turning people against people. Okay? So this reminds me of other books where Yahweh goes on and on about talking, about all this sinning against him and all these things, but yet it's all these people doing it to each other. Basically all of chapter 50. Slay all her bullocks and let them go down to slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day has come, the time of their visitation. So, the Redeemer is drawn, the Lord of hosts, his name shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land, disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. So, this just doesn't, to me, sound like the same author that's in Revelation, where it's very commanding in Revelation in a different way. This is this Yahweh. There's no Yahweh in Revelation, guys, just so you know. There is no reference to the name Yahweh in all of Revelation, not once. So here, it's sort of like the Yahweh character, it just goes on and on. You know, in Revelation, you've got no reference to the name Yahweh, not one time. And all of this vials and seals are the cause of these plagues. And so it's just a different overall description. I don't know how to explain this. It's like the same story from two different people. This is the real story here. And then you've got the Yahweh version in Jeremiah. But to me, it's night and day when I read Revelation versus all the other prophets. There's a clear distinction between the two. And the only one that's the exception is really Daniel. Daniel has, just so you know, half of Daniel was written in Aramaic and half of it was written in Hebrew. And so there is a little bit of you could tell there's a little difference there because the Aramaic stuff has the name Yahweh in it, I believe. Hold on. There's a couple references to Yahweh in the early Daniel stuff, and I just can't find it right now. Well, here we go. Yeah, so the first part of Daniel was written in Aramaic. And then when when Darius took over in the first year, it switched to Hebrew. And you can see here that, that's when in Daniel 2, that's when the capital L-O-R-D comes into play. So this is when the name Yahweh is now used. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Daniel 9 is when it's written in Hebrew. Or is it the other way around? Half of it's written in one, half of it's written in the other. I think maybe the Aramaic Hebrew is the Hebrew of Babylon. Okay, so it doesn't matter. You get the point. It's that there's the first half, so it looks like it's in Daniel 8 and before it's written in the original language, or the other way around. I can't go online right now. My power's out, so yeah, the word Yahweh is used a few times in Daniel 9, and that's it. So I don't know if that's an insertion or if that was his intent because he was told to use that name. This seems to be the time. Somebody's at the door. Hold on. Sorry about that. So it looks like, it's hard to say, but it clearly is, he does not talk about Yahweh at all for the first half of Daniel, more than half. There's only 12 chapters. He goes 8 chapters without saying the word once, and then in Daniel 9, there it is. So it just has a different tone. Daniel's prophecies, Daniel the prophet, has a different overall tone to him than any of the other ones, and he's the one that is verified by Jesus as being a true prophet. Not that the other ones aren't, but he's the only one that Jesus actually mentions at all in this way, where it's absolutely clear he's reaffirming Daniel's words. You know, Jesus mentions Isaiah, he mentions others, but he mentions Daniel in a very special way, which absolutely confirms his authenticity. Authenticity. So you can see here this verse where it says, I have laid a snare for you, and indeed you have been trapped, Babylon. Okay, well that's very clear. I mean, the trap has been laid here for America, and Yahweh's taking credit for it. See, so Yahweh is the one turning nation against nation, and it's clear in Jeremiah 50. You can see it very clearly. So I think I'll wrap up this portion here and see if there's anything else I can add. My power's out, so I won't be able to upload this for some time anyway. Well, I guess I'll just wrap it up this way. You know, we're watching this unfold right now. The last month, we've seen these two leaders of Iran and Syria be taken out in one way or another. And, you know, this is pretty clear what's happening here. And this is a key marker in all the prophecy. So just kind of anxious to hear the news every day as usual, but we're really seeing this come quickly. I mentioned some dates and some numbers. Basically, I mentioned some numbers I see a lot, and it looks like certain verses. You know, I see 12:11 a lot, and we got 12:1 here, which is Michael standing up. 12:11 is talking about the daily normal being taken away and abomination set up. And it's got the 1290 day count there. Revelation 12:11 is overcoming him by the blood of the Lamb. Okay? John 12:11 is because that by reason of him many of the Jews went away and believed in Jesus. So, you know, that's really something that's the goal of the tribulation, is to get the Jews to believe in Jesus. And all this stuff is pointing at this time right now, the Damascus stuff, everything else. So we shall wait and see. Is this the biggest coincidence in the history of the world? I don't know. I don't think so. So, you know, just World War III is around the corner. I'm very anxious about it. It's very hard because no one around me believes it's even happening, and it's just unbelievable. So I'll leave it there. God bless. My power's out. I have to find a way to make coffee right now, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye. Jesus is the truth, guys. Jesus is the truth. I've been under a lot of chaos lately, and you know, thank God. Thank God Jesus is the truth. And this is all I have left that I can believe in. So, all right, guys. Talk soon. Bye-bye.